Hello everyone, Andy here. When discussing the pros and cons of Kill Team compared to 40k, one thing everyone agrees on is that 40k gets to play with the big toys. And big toys are super fun, no one can doubt it. Now if I were to define myself as a 40k player, it would be that I like the big toys. In fact, when I sit down to make a list or think of an army, I start with which has the coolest big model, and can I get 3 of them and then another big model. My Necrons started out as just I wanted to run 3 Doomsray Stalkers, and then the Silent King looked kind of cool too. My Tau, Storm Surge first, then everything else. My Orcs, toys before boys, okay? But new Tyranid releases means new big bugs. The dual kit, Assimilator, Emissary, right? Now I've talked about how to do a boss battle as a concept ages ago, okay? But in this video I wanted to firm those up and explain how I went from the 40k stats to the Kill Team stats, and then how it can be played. So this is going to be quite a long video that's just going to talk about concepts, specific rules, and then general principles for how you might want to convert any 40k datasheet to Kill Team, and then archetypes, like consider the archetype profiles to make it possibly easier. Let's do it, I guess. Essentially, this is a builder boss workshop at the end here. Now before we crack on, I'd like to give a quick shout out to all my patrons, and that is a big circle hello. Such wholesome, very wow. If you want to qualify for that circle hello in the next video, check out my Patreon, which gives you access to my Discord. Otherwise, consider comms buffing me with +1 APL by hitting that like button, thank you. For the comment, if you fancy it, tell me how you'd handle the activation problem of a 1 model team. I'm going to tell you my thoughts, but it's not elegant. Minor proviso, because I'm converting a 40k datasheet, this video, despite being explicitly for Kill Team, is inevitably going to be looking at 40k rules a bit too, so my apologies for having to reference such a game. As I'm creating this for a specific scenario, perhaps the end of a long campaign, we're not looking for like match play level balance here, where everyone might end up taking the NORN Emissary. It's such a big and cool model, I envision him as being one player in a multiplayer battle, which leaves plenty of room for him balance-wise. If I totally mess up his power level, then all players will naturally kind of gang up on him, or if it turns out he sucks, people will ignore him and score points. I considered making him essentially like an AI, but that seemed too much for one video. Boss battles is enough of a concept to cover. And the boss doesn't have to be something that is killed, to clarify. Maybe, if your archetype in the game is Seek and Destroy, you need to kill it, but if you're Infiltrate, you need to implant it X times and then run away, and you score based on how many models get off the board. Or if you're Recon, you want to hold the vantage points for as many turns as possible as you set up a sensor field. And if you're Security, you score based on how many times you can perform an action on each objective, setting buildings to blow or something, or the actions performed counts as a modifier to how many models then get off the board. You get it. But we'll get to the specifics later, right? For now, we have to answer the biggest question of how do we balance one model against every other team. We could just boost all of his weapons to be auto-hitting and auto-killing, but he's one model, so a Horde team would still actually just win really easily. We could make him 12 APL and remove action restrictions, but that's going to be a really boring game, as it will remove any semblance of back and forth. No being able to react to your opponent, and Kill Team ultimately is a game of reactions, let's be honest. And we also can't just say that he gets to activate back and forth like normal, because then he would absolutely rinse Horde teams, but not elites. So you've got to balance your boss so that he's tough enough and killy enough to not auto-table elite teams or Horde teams, but still be able to do that if the opponent plays dumb. Okay, right. Honestly, there isn't a perfect way to do this that I can really think of, but my suggestion is that they get to alternate activating and overwatching every third of the enemy team. So if your boss is against a 6 model team, they get to activate, then the enemy gets 2 activations, then you get to overwatch, then they get 2 activations, then you get to activate again. If you're playing into a 40 model team, for example, then they get 5 activations, you activate 5 activations, you overwatch 4 activations, you activate. So yeah, percentage of team models seems to make the most sense. You know, you tell me what your thoughts are. But to create you get it. This allows for a back and forth between the players. Yes, it's called Kill Team, but really it should be Reaction Team. If you lose the reactionary abilities of Kill Team, what's the point? You're then just playing 40k but without the rules designed for it, because those are great, aren't they? Anyway, that's my way of doing it. The percentages, right? There are so many ways of doing it though, and depending on the model you're trying to bring over from 40k, you might want to let it only activate once. Like, let's say it's a Baneblade. You want to simulate the slow trudging nature of it. Or if it's a Harlequin Solitaire, you want it to activate every activation to show how fast it is. This would be something that needs to go on the datasheet, as it depends on what you're simulating. I'll discuss this more in the archetype section of the video. I wish there was a more elegant way than just percentage of enemy team models to define the boss activations, and I'm sure there is something that like to be tinkered with and worked with there, so drop a comment with your suggestion. Yeah, okay, without this being a live forum, I've given my thoughts. So the NORN emissary is a big, bulky creature, akin to a souped-up dreadnought. Okay, so I want its turns to be big and impactful, but not overly frequent. With the general problem of activations solved, or at least pondered, let's get into more NORN emissary specific stats and abilities, okay? Kill Team has a general rule of 1 40k wound equaling 6 Kill Team wounds. But the first wound is 7, so n plus 6, right? Whatever. Very roughly, of course, but there are so many exceptions we really have to go by feel. How? Well, we want this to be a one-man army, so it needs to have wounds reflective of that. The highest number of wounds in a faction in the game is 114, the lowest is 71. The highest possible damage that can occur in a single attack is 28. That's not relevant, it's just a number I looked into when thinking of this. I say for a single model that is going to be very standard in its big scariness, we probably want to sit around 60 wounds. Just throwing that out there. This means that even if we get some crazy rolls, he's not getting tabled in one activation, but he could legitimately die in like turn 3 to pretty much any spec team, whether it's Horde or Elite. Now, Assimilator or Emissary, irrelevant. You know, I thought the Emissary was cooler, so built it without caring about stats, but obviously we're getting quite specific now. I don't envision him as being a Baneblade or Dreadnought tanking all the hits, okay? With some focused fire, he can still get taken down. He's essentially 3.5 intercessors at 60 wounds. In 40k, he's a 2-up save with a 4-up invuln, hitting on 2s for all attacks, has melee and 3 forms of psychic attack, okay? However, converting to Kill Team rules and dice pools, I think that a 2-up save is too much. It's just not good on that size of a wound pool. So we're going to make that a 3-up save, still keep the 4-up invuln, and some sort of Titanic keyword that means he can't retain for cover. Why? Design philosophy. 2-up save, always retaining for cover with a 4-up invuln is ludicrous. I love the concept of auto-retaining dice from your pool, don't get me wrong, but in this instance, I think that when you have a big boss with a big chunk of health to chew through, being able to actually chew through that health is very important for the feel of the game. Create durability with them being able to take a lot of damage, like not with them refusing to take that damage, you know? In 40k, he has 3 types of psychic attack to do different jobs. They have Precision, Blast, and Melter. I think this will be easy enough to simplify. Blast we can swap to Torrent. Hold with me, this will make sense in a moment, okay? I'd originally put this down as being Fusillade, but obviously big lol. Lol. Melter we can swap to AP1, easy. And Precision we don't really need in Kill Team. So when thinking about the theme of precision in 40k, it's to snipe out leaders, and in Kill Team the problem there is cover and line of sight. So we want an indirect keyword, except indirect fire doesn't exist in Kill Team. Or does it? Oh yes it does. From the long forgotten golden rule set, the Compendium. The Tau Hunter Cadre, the DS8 tactical support turret has smart targeting. Enemy operatives that are not within engagement range and are valid targets and cannot be in cover, but we only hit on 6s, and those 6s are always normal hits. Nice. Minor side note, 40k should just change indirect fire to never being able to hit on better than 5s. Same for towering. If you need to use either of those rules or shoot, like you can never hit better than a 5, I don't know, literal problem solved. GW can hire me as your rules writer now. Thanks. This script was written 6 months ago when that mattered, by the way. And the damage for these weapons, right. So I think we'll stick to some tried and true profiles for Kill Team here. Neuroparasite, the one with indirect fire, will be 6 dice doing 3-4 damage, but it's hitting on 6s, right? Neuroblast, the one with torrent, will be 5 dice hitting on 3s, 3-4 damage. And Neurolance can be 4 dice, 4-5 damage. Might not sound amazing, but with AP1 hitting on 2s, you're going to be just fine. Especially when we get to Ploys. And for melee, he's got 2 options, Monstrous Scything Talons and Monstrous Scything Claws. I think we'll make the Talons 5 attacks, 5-7 damage, brutal, kind of standard power weapon stuff. And the Rending Claws, 5 attacks, 4-5 damage, reap 2, both hitting on 3s. Nice. APL is a tricksy one. As I envision him as being a relatively standard boss, he's not skewed to super big and tough or super fast. I'm going to give him a standard boss APL of 4, I think that's right. He can shoot and fight twice in each activation just baked into the datasheet, or the keywords. Now, he's a huge 100mm base, okay? A bit larger than a Redemptor Dread, so we actually need to have a big discussion about movement speed and actually boss terrain setup. Oh god, that's a huge topic, right? But let me explain instead of discuss. He's still only 3 circle move, square, dash. If he was Farsight or a Solitaire, make him 4 circle. Maybe even 2 circle dash. If it's a Baneblade, make it 2 circle and unable to dash. For terrain, put down what you want to play with and make sure that he is able to fit his base between all the bits of terrain, unless for thematic reasons you specifically don't want him to be able to stop someone. We will give him Titanic Walker, so he pays no cost to traverse and never pays more than climb to circle to climb. And always drops for free, obviously. Also consider this like the perfect format for playing around with more elevation than you would normally be comfortable with. Perhaps if you get an operative to an elevation above the actual model, which is huge by the way, then you get P1 or an auto retain, etc. In 40k he has Singular Purpose as an ability which lets him either pick a model and reroll all hits and wounds, or select an objective marker and get a 5-up feel no pain. We'll use these to inform our ploys, okay? Ploy time. Ploys, strats, all that good stuff. So, let's keep it simple with 3 strat ploys and 3 tac ploys. For strats, we will have 3 different empowerments. These will be buff to your shooting for the turn, 1 lets your indirect hit on 5s, 1 changes the torrent to blast. Hence why it's torrent, not blast, right? CP drain. 1 gives mortal wounds to your AP1 gun. As these are psychic powers though, let's have some fun, and when you use an empowered weapon, every roll of a 1 could be hot, so 3 mortals. Fun, yeah? Then tac ploys, we just want to scratch. We want just a scratch, sorry. Sprint, which we're steal straight for the Hearthkin jump pad guy for 2 APL. You can move 12 inches in a straight line, as if you have fly, but you then cannot move again. And hunker down, when on an objective, get a 5-up feel no pain until your next activation. Cool. And that's the boss battle concept and the specific NORN Emissary datasheet complete. Simple. It is now a playable model in your narrative game as some super cool big bad model that mainly allows us poor little kill team players to put a big model on the board but still play with an actually good rule set instead of being forced into the pain that is 40k 10th edition. And now to very briefly touch upon the concept of boss battle archetypes. So, this idea came about from the idea that GW could release boss battles as a supplement. It's narrative, so they would smash it together in a day and still make it home for dinner. Nice. So let's write at least 1 custom datasheet for each faction, or they could, sorry. Then at the end of the book, give the Build a Boss workshop. Here, they are really just giving you permission to make your own datasheet and pretend it's whichever model you feel like it from 40k. A good system here is you start with a datasheet that has the maximum stats for our 3 archetypes. We could be lame and call them light, medium, heavy, but let's give it some riz and go with ninja, immortal, super heavy, okay? Then we set up a list of abilities that fit our archetype, and they each have a cost, but not a cost of points, a cost of stats. In general, we'll be looking at lowering the health of our boss sheet, but perhaps some more powerful abilities could lower BS or APL. Then you have the freedom to create the boss you want in a simple drag and drop format, and it can be whichever model you want. Fast and fragile, all the way up to slow and durable, with 0 special abilities, or up to possibly 8, depending on what you feel like remembering, to be honest. For an example, let's say the ninja profile starts base with 40 health, hits on 2s, 4 APL, but the super heavy starts on 130 health, hits on 4s, and has 3 APL and can't dash. they both have access to a list of, let's say, like 3 generic boss rules and 3 generic boss abilities. Then they have access to a further 3 special rules and abilities unique to their archetype: Ninja, Immortal, Super Heavy. The cost of each special rule could cost, let's say, 10 health, and each ability could cost 5 health, because it's also going to cost you an APL to do the ability, right? The Super Heavy rules could then cost you like 10 or 15 health to give it each one, whilst the Ninja abilities cost 2 to 5, because obviously you have less health to work with in the pool anyway. So what would this look like? This could be, let's say you have a Harlequin Solitaire, something like that, and it starts at 40 health base, and you want to give it an ability that allows it to move further. Okay, that is from the core. You want to increase it. You give it an ability that costs 10 points, so you give it this ability and it now only has 30 health points, right? Or you could say, no abilities, they're too expensive, I'm going to give it a special rule which is only 2 health points. So instead of trying to juggle, because we don't have points in Kill Team, right? So we're not trying to create a 100 point boss. We're trying to create a data sheet, and we're using excessively large health point pools to use those as building blocks to pay points so that we can run it. Obviously, I haven't thought about fine-tuning any of this at all. So me saying 40 and then let's say 70 for the Immortal and then 130 for the Super Heavy. If you had a Baneblade, maybe you want its final health after you've given it abilities to be 130. You'd have to tweak it. So maybe, you know, Super Heavy, it's not going to have any movement abilities available to it, so you can spend 20 hit points, take it from 200 down to 180, and that gives it, you know, turret, something, you know, or something like, or APC, you can deploy 1 model on every turn, something like that, you know, for an APL. And basically you're just using your data sheet as a block of points, and you can spend any of your stats, your core stats of the archetype, to give it extra rules. That would be a cool thing. That would be nice. That would be very easy. It would be very narrative. It would be something, you know, risk-free for GW to throw to the narrative players of Kill Team, and it would allow us all to put our cool big models on the board without. I realize it doesn't look big this far away from the camera. Sorry, it's Instagram. Let's do close up. Oh yeah, that looks much better, doesn't it? All right. No hate to Instagram lovers, obviously. You do you, okay? I don't do you. That's illegal. Anyway, with that said, as we've made it to the end of the video, if you have perchance stayed with me through that final ramble and the discussion of archetypes and how cool that would be, and it would be cool, build a boss workshop. Hype. That's all I'm saying. I'd like to end things off with a big patron-only square hello. Gosh, wasn't that delightful? Everybody, you know, honestly, if you made it to the end of the video, there's nothing better you can do for a small channel like mine than just watching to the end of the video, so thank you. There is a second thing you can do, though. You know, if you want to just directly deposit £1 million into my bank account, that would be either or, your choice, dealer's choice, you know. All right, whatever, bye.